Hello, hello, hello. Live YouTube. All right, today we're talking about limiting beliefs. Now, you probably know a little bit about that because you feel limited, and that's probably why you're watching right about now. But I'd like to give you a little different look at it, not the standardized approaches that you may be familiar with, like the CBTs or the Socratic type questioning, but a little different model maybe. All right, limiting beliefs. So the first is, where did those things come from? How did you get that belief that I can't speak on a camera just off the cuff and just have a few bullet point notes around? Or I don't feel, I don't know, I don't think I'm smart enough to do that, or I don't think I speak well, or I don't like the way that I look on camera, or any of these kind of things. And I sure hope this is not reversed on here. If it is, I'm sorry about that. In any case, so limiting belief, we're going to use the example of speaking up, right? You're in a situation, maybe you're at a boardroom meeting, you're at work, and you're like, why didn't I say anything, right? Or it can be in a relationship, it can be in a family situation, or it could be like this, right? Where you're wanting to do social media and have something holding you back that feels limiting. Where does that come from? It's got to come from somewhere, because it seems that other people, if maybe have less of a limiting belief or don't have that limitation, it seems like in a specific area that you feel like you may have that limitation. Well, you became who you are in somehow, some way, and that's because our lives are shaped from the time we're born. Now, yes, there's likely some genetics in there, but since we can't change that, there's not really any use even discussing that part. Let's talk about the nurture part, or what happened. I think that a lot of the fear of speaking up comes from when you're a kid, and depending on your age, you may have a different experience, but here, let's say at school, there's an in-between classes, or the recess, you're a tiny kid out on the playground, and you say something, and you have 5 different pairs of eyes, or 3 sets of eyes, or 10 sets of eyes, but you have other kids looking at you, and they go, ah, 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 right? And they start laughing at you, pointing at you. And if that's ever happened, that your brain's going, I don't like this. You know, whether you remember that or not, there's a feeling attached to that this is uncomfortable. All those eyes looking at me, everyone laughing. Or it can be something similar. Maybe the teacher is wanting to pick a student to answer the question written up on the board, and they just point to you and you freeze up. Maybe you don't know the answer, or maybe you're just don't want to speak up for some reason, or maybe you just hesitate trying to think about it, or maybe it's because you were on the playground the day before and people were laughing at you and you don't want to sound stupid. For whatever reason, it's these little things that happen. Or let's just say that your teacher pointed to you, you did, like, sure, I know that answer, and you got it wrong and people laughed, right? Or you said it in a different way, or you accented the words in a strange way to what the other students thought. But these little situations can completely begin to wire who you are and what you do. Here's a completely different example. Let's say that you had a parent that had an anger issue, whether it was due to them just being angry, whether it was due to alcohol or drugs or something else. And in the past, when you tried to say something, you would get abused. Well, it felt like abuse. I don't know if it was, but you would get whipped verbally or maybe physically. But in other words, there was consequences for speaking up. Maybe the parent was, you'll speak when you're spoken to, and or something along those lines. Again, I don't know your specific situation, but the point here is that as we go through life, life is a series of moments, a series of situations, and those situations shape us. So along the way, a thing happened or many things happened that shaped your identity into a person that had a belief that I can't speak up, or I don't know why I can't speak up, but there's some limitation and you feel that resistance or that limit. So that's kind of how it got there. The one I explained before about the angry parent or the bullies, that's what I have on this little chart. And again, I hope this is flipping it for me. But this is the negative trigger. So this is you. I may not look like you, but yes, that's the person we're talking to. And there's negative triggers and there's positive triggers. A trigger is not negative or positive. If you think of an old song that whisks you back to a place of a happy memory, we could call that a positive trigger. If you think about a time, maybe it was receiving a compliment or a gift or seeing a view, or it's an accomplishment, a trophy, a grade, right? A passing, a graduation, passing a test, I mean. That getting a puppy, right? That can be linked up in a positive trigger. So we have these negative triggers, and I think most people have them. But the interesting thing is we don't always connect that thing that happened here with a limiting belief that seems completely unrelated. But from my work and what I do, my title is hypnotist, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, whatever title you want. The thing is that we have these different triggers, both positive and negative. So they shaped us from the past. We also have things constantly shaping us right now. You do. If you look around your room, and make sure, mic's on. If you look around the room, everything that's being received through what you see, what you hear, everything. If you fall asleep at night with the TV on, that's influencing you. The friends that you have, you've heard this before, right? Something like if you have 4 successful friends, you're likely to be the 5th. If you have 4 fit, healthy friends, you're likely to be the 5th. If you have 4 friends that are deathly afraid of speaking on camera, you're likely going to be the 5th. Now, the idea is simple. Don't have to nitpick every little word, but the idea is that your surroundings, your environment, our environment, it shapes us. And when you're shaped by your environment, or you shape the environment and it shapes you. Many times, in some cases, we don't have control of the environment if you're a little kid, but so you couldn't control that angry parent or that bully. But now, as an adult, you can. You absolutely have control in most cases of your environment. And you may not be able to control everything, but you can control what you can control. What you can't, well, we got to get over that. So if you're just joining now, we're talking about limiting beliefs, and I'm just sharing with you my model. We're also going to talk about different kind of therapies, and I've got some more notes around here to show you, and this framework right over here. This framework is kind of a top-down approach with any challenge you're dealing with in life. I love this model. I call it the GPS. And essentially it's the G is goal, like where you set your GPS, your destination. I want to be able to speak on camera, confidence on camera. I want to be able to speak up in a situation where I've just not said anything, not gave an opinion or something. Whatever that is, you want to get clear on what do you want, and not just what you want to do, speak up, but what's the outcome? How would you like speaking up to have other people think different, feel different, and do different? So what do you want? Get really clear on that, and that's a constant process of clarifying, re-clarifying. So that's you. No, you're the car, right? That's you on a road trip, the journey through life, the hero's journey. Behind this car is this massive trailer. I probably should have put more wheels on it, but like a semi-sized trailer. And these represent big container size, heavy emotional events. Now, those events do not have to be related to this speak up in your mind, but any emotional event that you can note down, for example, maybe it was a very bad breakup, maybe it was a betrayal, maybe someone stole from you, maybe it was a actual physical abuse, maybe it was what you would call a verbal abuse. Maybe it was just someone looked at you in such a way that to you, the meaning you associated was you're stupid, right? They might not have even said that, but it's not what happens. It's how we process the meaning that we attach. So again, going back to this model, the G is the goal, where you're going. You have to get really clear. The P, GPS, is the past. So making peace with the past. If you have any memory from any time in your life, as a kid, last month, getting passed by for a promotion, not getting the job, getting fired, the breakup, the nasty argument, saying something that you wish you didn't and you feel regret or you feel shame, all of these things, if you can still reflect on them, replay them, if they still trigger stronger emotions, if you open that door, saying you've let it go is not the same as rerunning the movie and seeing if it pulls emotion. But if any old memories pull regret, resentment, shame, guilt, anger, sadness, you get the idea. Any of the darker emotions, it means that you still have live memories that are bubbling under the surface, and they are affecting likely all aspects of your life, whether you know it or not. Now, there are many DIY methods, and we're going to get to that, like how do you clear up that. But first, the GPS. So get clear on what you want, make peace with your past. How do you know? Because if you replay those events from your life, we can call them traumas, we can call them PTSDs, or we can just call them hurtful memories or, defining moments. It doesn't matter what label you put on it, but the point is that they have emotion attached. When you make peace with those, you harvest the good. Like, what good came out of that? Maybe it was poo from the past, right? These ugly situations, but there's always golden nuggets, even in the worst, ugliest situations. Now, you might think, no, that was terrible. That was the most horrible thing. Yes, it's probably true. And there's still nuggets of wisdom in there that you can leverage going forward. So get clear on where you're going, the G, make peace with your past. And there's DIY therapies I can point you to also on YouTube. And then over here, the S, GPS, is surroundings. Surroundings for your environment, what's surrounding you, the people, the podcasts, the videos or video games, the TV if you have one, the books you read, literally the people especially, but anything around you, the home you live in, what you have hanging on your walls. And maybe I'll share what's hanging on my walls over there that inspire me or keep me in line. But just know that your environment shapes everything. Let me give you an example, all right? So you believe me. Imagine you're lying on the couch and you've just worked some crazy amount of hours and you're exhausted. And who's ever there, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, child, says, come on, you got to get up. And you're like, I can't. I'm exhausted. I can't even lift my head. You feel like you just literally have zero energy. You're running on fumes or less than that. Now, and that may be true, and you feel like you literally can't pick up your head. But then you see something run across your floor that looks like a big giant insect, a spider, a roach, I don't know, a rat, a mouse, something, or at least you think you see something. Or you smell smoke, right? Like from a fire. That energy, bang, you're up in a flash just like you had a full tank of gas, right? Jet fuel. So what happened? The environment changed, or at least your perceived environment changed. So that's the point of this. This is my overview, my higher level framework that I kind of put on almost everything I do. Do you know where you're going? What is holding you back? Today we're talking about limiting beliefs, but they come from oftentimes these events, and these are the events, and then what's surrounding you. So metaphorically, that would be the potholes or construction area or picketers on the side of the road or heavy duty traffic, whatever's going on. So your environment is critical to getting what you want. And today we're using limiting beliefs, but today specifically we're talking about speaking up, confidence on camera, speaking up in a relationship, and that doesn't mean yelling at the other person. It doesn't mean starting a fight. It just means communicating, because that's what's most important. All right. So that's the overarching framework. Now, this is my personal, my favorite therapies. There's all kinds of therapies, things that or models, like you can call them therapies, you can call them models or different ways to get rid of the limiting belief and how to create new empowering or unlimited beliefs, right? In the way that I do things, I do use therapy and coaching models, a hybrid, hypnosis, NLP, and every other therapy, eye movement therapy, bihemispheric movement, all these different things you may or may not have heard of. I'm happy to use any, just like a car mechanic. They're not married to the screwdriver or the socket set or the whatever you call it, vice grip or whatever other tools a mechanic has, right? Torque wrench. They just want to fix the car, and that should be the same for you. So let's talk about some of the different ways you can now get past the limiting belief. Well, if you look online, you're going to probably, most of you, if you've read up on limiting beliefs, you're probably going to hear the most common ones, which are questioning it. Like, well, I can't speak up. Always? I never can. Never, right? So it's kind of picking apart and getting you to go, well, not always, or I didn't mean never, like every once in a while, right? So it's kind of cracking that belief. And that is one method to get in there, but you don't have to be limited to one tool in the box. I think most people listening right now, maybe not you, but I think most people listening have this idea that if I can just get my thinking right and I can get motivated and I don't have that limiting belief in my brain, then I'll take action and do that thing and get the result that I want, right? That's common. And that's okay, because that does work. And it's very much like the chicken egg thing, right? If you have the chicken first, then it lays the eggs, then you have a chicken. Or you start with the egg and then it sprouts, a little baby chick pops out and becomes a chicken which lays an egg. It's very much similar in these types of change work. If you were afraid of jumping off a diving board, right? Into a swimming pool or some elevated thing, the rope swing or something, onto into the lake or something. You can use this as metaphor if you're not someone that jumps in the water or in lakes or something. It's fine. Everything can be used as metaphor. So let's just say you're trying to get the motivation and you don't have it, or you're trying to work on your limiting beliefs. Like, I know the water's clear. There's no logs down there. There's no rocks. There should be no reason for the fear. It's not that high, but it's there. And you're trying to work on your brain through changing, whether it's hypnosis or whether it's affirmations or whatever it is. You're trying to work on the mental side, the thoughts, to get yourself to take action. That works. Now, let's flip it like the chicken egg, right? If you're up there and your friend pushes you and you didn't have a choice to think about it because you're like, well, I don't know. And next thing you know, you're in the water and you splash down and you go, oh, that wasn't so bad. That was actually kind of fun, right? So now the fact that you just got a rep in, that you actually did the thing without thinking, well, your friend helped you, right? You now have an experience. That experience loops back and affects your beliefs. So the point here is you can change a belief or work on change a belief, maybe takes a little longer, in order to think different, act different result, or you can jump in as long as it's not, a risk of your physical health, just emotional challenges. If it's just emotional sting, if you just jump in and do it, let's give the standing in front. A lot of people are afraid to speak on a microphone. I got that little teeny one here, but let's just say you're on a stage, you got the big microphone. If you're working it up and you're studying and you're reading all about like how do you speak at a microphone and what do I say and what do I open with, you're going through all this mental torture. That's one way. But you can also, if a friend brought you up and you had two microphones and their friend said, "What's your name?" And well, I'm Jeff Bliss, right? Or whatever your name is. That would be easy because they asked you a question. You didn't have to remember how to open. And you said your name. And you're like, whew, you're sweating just saying your name, right? And they're like, "Oh, are you from this town?" "Oh, no, I was actually born over there, but I'm here." And with a few questions, pretty soon it gets easier and easier and easier. And this thing just disappears at some point. So that is kind of the chicken egg thing. So if you just do something without going back and forth, without having the mental battle, you get a rep in or reps, which feeds the experience to go, "Oh, I did that. I spoke into a microphone. That wasn't so bad," right? Let's do it again. Now let's go to the environment way. So one is to find a friend that can do that. What I personally did was I took a job teaching water sports, and they said, "Oh, by the way, the group of people are going to be showing up here, and I need you to give a little teaching, right? Just a little 10-minute talk and explain this one technique," right? It was windsurfing at that point. And then I just did it. And there was, first there was, 3 people, and then another day there was 5 people, and you just kind of get the reps in. And it's a little scary the first time, but you get the reps in. So that's the environment. Didn't really have a choice. I was being paid. I had a job, right? Another way to do it is which I suggest for everybody listening, if you want to become a better communicator, whether it's like this, lives, video, whether it's just getting promotion at work if you have a job, whether it's just having better relationships or better relationships with yourself even, I highly suggest, imagine a big push on your back, because I do mean it that way. I think everybody should probably take a public speaking class. Toastmasters is international. I don't know where you live, but if you look on Google Maps, you'll probably find it. Another was improv classes, spelled like improve without the E. And improv, it looks like comedy if you watch it on YouTube, and it can be funny, but it's about learning to just think on your feet. And when you don't know what you're going to say, you learn and you get the reps in. And most importantly, improv teaches you to be playful, to just relax and roll with the punches. It's never no, it's yes and. That's like the number one, or maybe it's the only rule, I don't know, but it's the number one rule that I remember from improv. I've taken many classes. And it's amazing what happens. Because I took the improv classes, I speak up, right? Because I have practice, I've been on stage probably 100 times, plus impromptu practice. If you catch my YouTube video, I had one video that went viral like a decade ago. It was called, what was it called? Filipinas Love Hypnosis. It's a little bit long video, and it went viral, I think, a year or two after I posted it. But it wasn't planned. It wasn't like a show. It was just some people said, "Hey, can you show us something in a city park?" And then I just handed my phone. It was like, what was it? Samsung Galaxy S3? It was a long time ago. I don't know what number they're on now, 53 or something, 103. But it's, and somebody just held it and did a great job, and it just worked, right? So that was getting the reps in without actually planning an event where you're going to have a microphone. It just kind of happened. And it can happen at parties. It can happen at any kind of events. All right, so let's go back. For people that may just be joining, we're talking about limiting beliefs, what to do about them. There's more than one way. My way isn't the only way. There's many different models. You can go through a therapy model, you can use a coaching model, you can sign up for classes and gain an experience. Personally, I like them all. I actually like the combination the blender method of using all these things, because each one teaches you a different skill or a different version of a skill that gives you a set of skills that other people don't have. I don't think anybody on the planet has exactly my skills. Now, that's not a brag or anything. It's just because I had a different life, right? I had a parent who committed suicide as a kid. Not everyone had that. Many people did, but not everybody. Not everyone's had that happen and taught water sports. Not everyone did that and lived in, I don't know how many different foreign countries, but different countries. So your unique situation, where you live, the parents or siblings that you had, the bullying, the unique experience, all of that makes you you. And I've met people that were severely addicted to drugs, very hard drugs, and went through rock bottom times of their life. I never had a drug addiction, so I can't tell that story. So they can do things that I will never be able to do because I'm never going there, right? All right, so let's get back to this limiting beliefs. So the overarching thing with anything you want to change, a belief, an action, a habit, anything, before the overarching thing is you got to know what you want. You make peace with any memories that are bothersome, weighty, heavy, that weigh on your emotions. This even goes with weight loss goals, like anything. And then shape your surroundings to help make the trip smoother. Let's go back to the metaphor of the car. If you got a highway with a barricade so the other traffic can't get into your lane, you're going to be able to drive faster. If there's less on ramps and off ramps, then and less traffic, no traffic lights, you're going to be able to cruise faster. So the more you shape your environment, that's metaphor for the people you speak to, if you watch TV, what's in the room. If you're in an office or a room at a table, let's say you're working on something, if you got a bunch of stuff on the table, you're going to be distracted and you're going to find it easy to do other things than the thing you really should be doing. But if you clear all that off and just put the one project on the table, I have a few of these here, it makes it a lot easier. So know what you want, make peace with your past, shape your environment. And that can mean classes. That can mean joining live communities. It can be if it's live, it could be a church group. It can be a digital nomad community. It could be any kind of a class. It could be a martial arts group. It could be your friends at the gym. Like, all these things shape you. So let's go into how do you break the limit, go back. How do you break the limiting belief? So one is to get rid of the old triggers, which is this here. And here's a couple methods how to break old triggers. So if you think about speaking into a microphone and you feel this whoa, or you think about recording a video and you feel this pullback, you can break that chain of events. So there's a thought and there's a response. One wonderful way to break it is through a pattern interrupt. And it simply means if you think this and feel that, and you continue to think this and feel that, you're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper in the same rut. You've got to do something different in order to get out of the rut and cut a new path, right? So a pattern interrupt can be really simple that you can DIY it too. Let's say you think about speaking on camera and you feel this resistance. Right then, you can do push-ups. If you do push-ups, you can do air squats, like you're getting ready to sit on the couch, but you don't rest your butt, you stand back up. Walking lunges. You can do something physical. There are different poses or postures. In a Tony Robbins seminar, he might have you do some kind of some kind of a yell, a movement, and they work because they do interrupt the pattern. So they definitely work. You may have heard about therapies like tapping. Whether it works on different zones and meridians and whatever, it doesn't really matter in my mind as much as it's a pattern interrupt. Like, why would you, it's kind of weird, tapping on your face or wherever when you're thinking about something, but it does interrupt the neurological pattern. because your challenge is not logical. You know it's not logical. It's neurological. So hopefully that makes some sense. But let me give you some of these you can call them therapies or methods of change work if you don't like the word therapy or coaching, right? So one is talk, and that's you have a coach or a therapist, counselor, guide, and you talk through it. Can you remember a time when you did feel confident? Oh yeah, I can, right? And you can start to kind of link those things together. You can talk through it. Where does that come from? Now that you're adult, can you look at it a different way? These are different types of talk therapies. Hypnosis, one of my favorites, not my only one, but I obviously like it. And it's not like in the movies. It can be, where you just say, sleep, close your eyes. And when you open your eyes, you're going to be the most confident person on the planet. Does that work? For a tiny fraction of people, it does, or at least temporarily. But it's not realistic to rely on that. It's a tool, but there are many forms of it. That's super direct for only a certain type of person. But there are many types of it, even conversational. There's EMDR, you probably heard of, which is desensitizing eye movement therapy. But the over umbrella thing of that is a bilateral movement. So EMDR is a subset or a specific branded therapy that falls under bilateral movement, and which is a subset of bihemispheric movement to both sides of the brain. So that's not the only way. It's a pretty good method. I do like some aspects of every one of these. Of course, there's the coaching. The method that I use, PRTR, I'll get to that in a little bit here. NRA, let me mention that. NRA is an acronym that I created, and it's not what you think it is. It stands for Name It, Rate It, Apply a Tool. Any one of these therapies, in my experience, which is over 10 years, it's 12, I believe now, maybe it's 13, I gotta check it. 2012 is when I first started learning to be a therapist. So 14 years, something like that. But name it, rate it, apply a tool. So what is the feeling? Resistance. What is the feeling? Fear. What is the feeling? Unworthy. All right? That's name it. Rate it. On a scale of 0 to 10, how strong is that? 7, 8, 9, 10. Then apply a tool is any one of these therapies. Some like EMDR will likely use that, something similar to that, maybe not the same acronym because that's my acronym, right? But they'll probably likely do something. They call it the SUDS scale, or the, on a 1 to 10 scale is what that is. But there's a lot of different ones. I do want to tell you about the PRTR because I'm really proud of that. I've been working on it for a decade and I finally kind of nailed it down. So essentially what this is where you take, I've got a negative trigger. I think about speaking up or speaking on camera or speaking to a microphone, and I feel, angry, scared, frustrated, not good enough, whatever. We cut that link through pattern interrupt or any of the many therapies, okay? And actually before that, that's actually step 2. Before that, I have you go and remember an old positive memory. If it's a parent, maybe when your child was born, first time holding your child. If it's maybe you received this amazing compliment, maybe it's the first time you saw a shooting star, maybe it was getting a trophy, maybe it was whatever it was, right? Getting married, maybe it was getting divorced, right? Little joke there, but you get the idea. Some positive memory that when you think about, like, wow, that was nice. My first puppy, or that birthday or whatever, that trip. So we want to light that up again, or a time that you did speak up, a time you did feel confident. We want to bring that up. It's called revivifying, the fancy word, revivification, massive word, probably too technical, but it's like dusting off an old photograph, right? But we want to spark that up and get it strong, right? Get it firing in your brain so you're thinking about it like, and it's almost, it's fresh in your mind. It's not some happy memory from the past. Then we go and we cut this trigger, right? This is my method, PRTR. Then, here's the coolest part. Then we take, because this is kind of cut, think of it like a ghost wire. So although there's a trigger there, a name, a sound, a smell, a thought, an image, it doesn't fire the negative emotion. So just think of it like a hallucination or a ghost wire that's no longer there. Nothing happens when you flip the switch. Then what we do is we take a wire, we run it from here, metaphorical wire, we run a wire, neurological connection from here to here. So then what happens? This thing gets triggered. You see the microphone. Not only do you not feel bad because the wire's been clipped, but it actually, in many cases, can put a smile on your face. You're like, what? Are you kidding me? I had this trauma and it makes me, I feel the heavy weight of shame. And you're telling me we can not only cut the trigger between the thought and the emotion, and we can actually wire to a smile? Yeah, baby, we sure can. And that's what I named it, pain resolving trigger remapping, like remapping keys on the computer, like the F function keys to do something different than is standard. Yeah, so I'm a fan of this. But the other therapies are still good. Don't worry about me. I'm not here to sell anything. I just want to share some of the ideas and some of the things that I learned. So what can you do? We're talking about specifically, we're using the example of speaking up, speaking on camera. I suggest you make a list and you attack it from different ways. So, one, get really clear on what you want, not what you don't want. I don't want to freeze in front of the camera. No, that's not what you want. That's what you don't want. Every time you say, I don't want to freeze, you're literally affirming, listen, I don't want to freeze. That's what you think you're saying, but that's not what your subconscious hears. Your subconscious hears, I don't want to freeze on camera. It's the same words, but the subconscious, apparently, talks of neuroscientists, does not seem to, I won't say it doesn't, but it does not seem to process like the conscious mind with the don'ts or do nots. If the words in a sentence are picture forming, freeze on camera, that's a picture. If you fire that picture, you are making that rut deeper. You're strengthening the wire between think about what you don't want and getting exactly what you don't want. So what should you do? Well, rather than phrasing it what you don't want, a better way is to phrase it in what you do want. So if you thought, I don't want to freeze on camera, what's the opposite of that? I want to speak and speak what's on my mind on camera. I just want to be able to look at a bullet list, which is what I have today. And I just want to hit those little points. And I just want to be able to talk like I speak to my best friend, right? You can do that. And that's very clear because now you're picturing speaking to your best friend or anybody that you're comfortable speaking with. And you're making that picture, and now you're programming or rewiring your brain. So it's okay to say, I don't want this. That's fine, because it helps you to rewrite the thought, the script, into what you do want. So get clear on what you do want. Make peace with your past using any different type of therapy or tool or coach or whatever. And then the environment around where you are, you want to start shaping that with what you listen to. Listen to good speakers, or ones that you find or that you like. Like what I see as a great speaker, other people don't. My favorite speaker is Craig Valentine. There's some names that sound similar to that, but Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Valentine. He won the Toastmasters best speaker in the world, whatever it's called, a long time ago, but he's still, to me, one of the best that it's ever lived, in my perspective. You might disagree, and that's okay. But find people that you like, and then just listen to one sentence, play it, pause, and just try to say it with that kind of tonality, with that pacing. Do it with another person, because you don't want to sound like someone else. But I did that with Matthew McConaughey. He has a book called Green Lights. And if you've never listened to a clip, even a clip of the audio. You got to listen. To me, it's as good as it gets as terms of a person that everything that guy says sounds like poetry. It's amazing to me. So I have spent hours listening and then trying to repeat. I can't match his style, but it did help me to try to find a little bit of that melody or some of the ups and the downs and the quiets and the louds and the here and the there and the melody, yeah, the flow of words and how you enunciate and change words, transition, a sharper ending, an up ending, a down ending. It's beautiful stuff. So, but this is probably one of the most important things you can do. Well, get clear on what you want. You want to decouple or get rid of those hurtful things that have been kind of jumping in, that have been intrusive thoughts, intrusive emotions, right? And you want to shape your environment, improv classes, Toastmasters, a coach, a therapist, listening to positive stuff, and getting rid of the negative stuff. Do never fall asleep with the news on. I know there's a lot going on in the world, and it's kind of hard not to want to hear it, but it's like play by play. I don't think anything's major going to happen today. You may as well just check in next week. But you got to be careful because that stuff gets in your brain and it takes you away from what's really important in life. So that's shaping it. Sign up for improv classes is one method. Going to Toastmasters or speaking class, speaking coach is another method. Another method, I have a digital community, and I'm not here to sell you on that, but if you want to interact with me live on Zoom, that's my community. What is it under? In school, it's school/grow zone. Why the grow zone? Because most people are hanging in the comfort zone. And I'm like, they don't want the comfort zone. I don't want to talk about what they don't want. What do they want? Well, what's the opposite of comfort zone? The grow zone. But it's the mindset bliss grow zone. In any case, I set that up so that a little bit of teaching and then interactive breakout rooms to practice with other people skills. Oh, this is important. In anything that you do, you want to change beliefs, you must have these three things. You ready? You need the mindset, meaning, I'm going to do this. Yeah, but you're too stupid. You're too, I don't care. I want that somehow, some way. I'm going to figure it out. How are you going to do that? I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. That kind of an attitude. I will find a way. I learned how to put my own pants on. I learned how to tie my shoes. I learned how to write my name. I can learn how to do that too. And you can. You can learn anything you set your mind to. And I honestly believe that, right? So surround yourself with that. Find a way to practice, whether it's through a class, the improv, whether it's through a digital community, whether it's through a live community, or all the above. Surround yourself with people that you want to be like. And this does not get mentioned enough. So important. Exercise is non-negotiable. Now, I've had people say, no, Jeff, I'm not an exercise person. I'm a, cerebral person. I read books and study and program and whatever. Like, shut up. Like, exercise is a non-negotiable. That's it, period. Everyone needs to exercise. If you're in a wheelchair, okay, you can roll the thing, right? If you can't do that, I met a paraplegic guy in, where was that? Mobile, Alabama. Was it Mobile? I think it was Mobile. Maybe it was Baton Rouge. In an Apple store. And the guy was moving himself he could move his head and he could speak, but he could not even move his arms. But he was still, exercising. He was still moving and doing what he could with what he had. So there's no excuses. And you're probably not, have zero ability to move your limbs. Maybe you do, but most people, you have some. Just use whatever you have. But exercise is a non-negotiable. Next, what you eat affects your brain. Your physical body affects your brain. Mind, body, spirit. You cannot separate them. Having a North Star. For me, that's God. For you, it might be something else. But having your feet on the ground, a belief in something, a faith in something, real or imagined, it's a grounding, it's a light, it's a North Star, it's something realizing that this something created this amazing planet, and the idea that you could have an ice cube that becomes water, that becomes evaporation, that goes to the clouds, that becomes rain, and the wind moves the clouds somewhere else, and the lightning and the thunder and the like all this stuff. It's like it's crazy, amazing. So it had to come from somewhere. But having some belief, some faith, I think is important, whatever that means to you. And it can be just putting your bare feet on Mother Earth or just looking up at the sky and realizing that you're part of something, right? The human race and the ecosystem and the whatever. I find that in the ocean is my favorite, or any body of water, lake, anything. But fitness, health and fitness is a non-negotiable. Cut down the sugar, cut down the caffeine. You don't have to cut it out. But just eat real food. Like, it makes a difference. Yeah, but Jeff, that's not my problem. It's a limiting belief. Yeah, and yes, and improv, right? Everything is connected. Eat better, eat more real food. Real food means if you find it on a farm, you find it on a tropical island. It's actual real food. It doesn't have a big old label with, 6 ingredients. If it has 1 ingredient, 2, maybe 3, salt, vinegar, something like that, that's probably okay. But it's got all these weird things you can't even pronounce, no. If it's in plastic packages, no. Once in a while, okay. That's called entertainment. So I'm getting a little bit off track here. I think I'm going to wrap this up. So just in closing, a quick reminder, limiting beliefs, there are many ways to handle those. There are questioning it. Oh, I can't speak. I just can't speak on microphone. Be careful. That is an affirmation. Everything you say is an affirmation. I mean, everything you say is an affirmation. So if you say, I'm not good at that, would you write that as a kid 100 times on the chalkboard? No, you don't want to program that in. So why do it now? You can say, up until now, I've had a real challenge with speaking on a microphone or speaking up, amongst peers or whatever. That's okay up until this moment. But you can change that. You can change all these things. And how do you do that? Well, journaling helps because it gets it out of your brain and on the paper. The beauty of having it on paper, and I don't mean you don't have to write like paragraphs and things, but just get the thoughts out of your head that are spinning, like that overwhelmed feel, that fear. When you put it on paper, it's almost like you're a different person looking at it from a third-party perspective. So anything that's weighing heavy on you, get it out of your head and on the paper, and then plot a course. Or fly up, metaphorically, and look down on your situation and say, because if you see a rat or a mouse in a maze, you're like, oh, little mouse, go that way, don't go that way. Or if there's a fly banging its head on the window and there's an open door over there, like, oh, fly, come on. Stop banging your head. You're going to get a headache. Go over there, right? From your perspective, it's easy. From the fly's perspective, bang, 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 right, on the glass, because it doesn't know. That's why a third person, a coach, a therapist, an instructor, if you're taking a class, they can see things you can't see. So accept constructive criticism. It doesn't have to be applied. Not everything people tell you is right, but at least go, okay, let me write that down and see if that applies. When people say stay in your own lane, you have to write it down. But how are you going to get anywhere if you don't change lanes to go from the on-ramp to the fast lane back to the exit ramp? Like, you got to change lanes, right? So changing lanes is normal, but it might mean, you know what, maybe I should get a little more knowledge or read a book on that topic before trying to teach it, right? At least have some experience, not just knowledge there, but actual experience. Okay, so know what you want, make peace with your past, shape your environment, the classes, the people, the audios, the podcast, TV. I was going to say throw it out the window, but somebody might be below the window, so don't do that. But nobody needs a TV in their bedroom. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You do not need it. A bedroom is for sleep. A bedroom is for intimate conversation and other things, but it is not for TV. I recommend you get it out of there. I rented this place and there's a TV bolted to the wall. I couldn't remove it if I be very difficult. Have to patch a concrete wall. So but it's off. I got note cards stuck to it. In any case, this hopefully is helpful. There are many types of different therapies, and you can just look on YouTube, of course. That's why you're here now, I think. I don't know how many people are here. I have no idea. But in any case, let's wrap this up. You're probably past your bedtime. Next time I'll start earlier. Okay, this is Jeff Bliss with Mindset Bliss. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you have any special requests for another live, let me know. If you'd like to interact with me in my community, I like to rhyme, then you can find me Mindset Bliss at school or Grow Zone at school. It's the same place, just different names. You can find me there or the website. So hopefully that helps, all right? You're going to be okay. I believe in you, and I know that you can do anything you set your mind to. You got this. Now tap into this. Mindset Bliss.